We will start the April 14th, 2015 Board of Commissioners meeting for Blue Earth County. Start with a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the agenda review, Bob?
Mr. Chair, there is one change to the agenda this morning. We'd like to present a revised human resources agenda when we get to that item.
Move the agenda with the revisions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's passed. Okay, Commissioners' reports on committees. Kip.
I can start. After our last board meeting, several of us were at the MnDOT open house to talk about the projects coming up in the future, and we had a good showing from the Blue Earth County Board. It was kind of a disappointing showing from not too many other people being there, but they did a good job kind of bringing us up to date what was going on. We was at department head meeting, planning and zoning we had that evening. Only had one thing on the item. We'll see that at the end of the month. Relatively small item. Had MRCI meeting. Everything's going really good at MRCI. I had to give up my presidency, and we got a new president. Steve Rothlings from another commissioner is taking over as president for the next 2 years. But everything's going pretty well there. A lot of things going on. Candy sales are hanging in there. So stopped up at the highway safety meeting. Didn't get to stay and have lunch with them, but they had a good turnout there. Walked around, said hi to a few of the guys. Spent about 45 minutes up there. Had a small, short meeting with Mike Nolan and Brian Stading and some of the staff on RCEF on how we can develop a better relationship with Nolan's group and Stading's group, and trying to work together a little more and take full advantage of some of that grant money that's out there. Met with a couple landowners on some land use issues the last couple weeks. Two things I'd like to just get a little more detail on is the Venco annual meeting they had the other day, and I think Will might have been there. I didn't get a chance to see you.
Yeah, I saw you were on the other side.
Yeah, but it's a relatively interesting meeting. But John Wells has got reelected.
He got reelected.
He got reelected.
Right.
Were you down there, Vance? I didn't.
I wasn't there,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
I saw the little ad in the paper from his competitor. So
Yeah, and but it was fun to watch the spirited discussion and sit in the audience and watch it happen. So they handled it really well. There was some very difficult things they had to deal with, and they did a good job. But very interesting. That organization is relatively large, 14,000 members. They made $30 million budget. So I normally go down. I've been down to it before, but I usually just stay for a few minutes. I very seldom sit for the whole annual meeting. But John invited me to come sit over at his table. It was right in the front, so it was pretty hard to
get away.
Senator Sharon was there and several other elected officials. And then the other thing that I did last week, which was relatively interesting and new to me, is I sit on an EMS board through the county board, and we went up to an EMS conference on sustainability for EMS in the rural area. And they're really running into a problem finding volunteers to basically run these ambulance staff these ambulance crews. We are very fortunate here in Blue Earth County that we have Gold Cross, we have volunteer fire departments that do EMS, and Gold Cross is only a few minutes away, and I believe the only volunteer ambulance service we have in Blue Earth County is run out of Lake Crystal. Other than that, everything else is run by Gold Cross. But when you get further out into the rural areas, into the Whatwan counties, the Faribault counties, there's a real concern about how are we going to keep these volunteers and keep these ambulance services running, because if they aren't there in that 4 or 5 minutes that they need to be there, that could be a problem. And if we have to start having 30, 40, 50 minute waits, and that's what some of these people are talking, if they don't have these volunteers, that's the kind of stuff that can go on. So we had 2-day discussion on it, and it was kind of interesting. The people that were putting the program on wanted to get 100% consensus from everybody. There were 71 or 72 people there. I knew very little about it, the only elected official in the group, and all the rest of them were professionals from EMS, paramedics, whatever. And to build consensus with 71 people, 100% consensus with 100 people in the whole state of Minnesota was very difficult. And our EMS group is doing relatively well with the volunteers in most of our region, South Central region, and up north they're not. So we had a real problem trying to get consensus to say that there's a problem with volunteers, because we're sitting on our end saying, well, no, there's not really that big a problem. We're getting it done. It's not easy, but we're getting it done. And more towards the north, they're saying, no, it's a huge problem. We can't deal with this. And so we really struggled with that, but we did get it down to a line to say that it's becoming more of an issue staffing these people. We took the word volunteer out, because then we got all kinds of discussion about what is a volunteer, and what does that consist of, and then we just kind of lost track of what we were for. And the goal, the whole goal of the 2 days was just to come up with 6 or 7 bullets that we can present to legislators and senators and congressmen and promote more funding, or however we're going to deal with this in the future. So it's kind of just a kickoff of what's going on. Eric Weller was there from South Central Technical College, and we had I learned a lot, and we're going to have a follow-up meeting in the next couple weeks, but stay tuned. I mean, we're trying to put something together, because this is going to be a big issue in the future.
It even affects the TZD.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly that. There was somebody there from that part of it, and it's a huge part of it. And
Faribault County, isn't that problem there?
They did, but they got it dealt with.
They got it dealt with?
Yeah, they had a big. They basically said that this ambulance service ain't going to run unless we volunteers, and they had people step up to the plate. So
you have to. It reminds me sort of a little bit too that, remember that when PILT was it's still a huge issue up north, payment in lieu of taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, down here we really don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And then AMC wanted to make it a big. Some people wanted to make it a big deal. Well, it's mainly just affecting the people up north.
Right.
Where all that forest land is and all that stuff. So.
But it's an issue, and we got to deal with it. We're very fortunate in Blue Earth County that we have Gold Cross and private haulers, but we have to be supportive of the ones that are in the rural area and have that problem, because it is that towards zero. It's a lot of different things. The money that is there's just not enough money there, and we talked about training. Is there 160 hours of training just to be a volunteer? That's just to be the volunteer. Then you get all your training, and anybody that's been on a fire department or volunteer in those, the stipulation is very high, and wasn't a whole lot of traction about lowering the standards, which is probably good. So when you do have someone there to work on you, that they're trained, but at 160 hours, it's going to find hard to find people to do the job. So a lot of discussion. Just
a lot of difference in EMS nowadays than it was back when I started my law enforcement career, like 39 years ago. Of course, back then, your ambulance was basically to haul them.
Right. Yep. Transport.
And now you start your actual heart monitoring. You start your medications and a lot of stuff. So a lot more training to right now than it was years ago. And
you're right, and that's
huge.
It's working, but so we'll be having some more meetings on that. So I'll keep you posted. But that was at first I was a little. What am I doing here? Because it was just, they were all in the business, and so every time we do our little breakout sessions, and we kind of broke out into different sessions, and they all, what do you think? I'm like, I'm just an elected official. I'm not in the business, Well, then as soon as they figured out you're an elected official,
then you're really on that spot.
Yeah. So.
Because technically we are supposed to oversee, health and welfare of our county, and so maybe this could even be something that could be brought up at a District 7. Meeting even to see where things are at with the rest of the district.
That would be a good suggestion. Yeah.
All right.
So that was my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mark.
April 1st we had department heads, and then April 8th, a Wednesday, had Micah up in the cities. That's when Kip was dealing with the situations and he was dealing with there. And we had a good overview of the legislative issues. Of course, the child protection bill was moving along, and it seemed to be, maybe Bob, well, of course you never know until it's over with, especially with the legislature, but it looked like they were going to put the kind of money in there to help for the counties for child protection, and of course it, you get into the whole, if the issue is if they're trying to do too much and tie us up a bit with what they're going to try to do, but we'll see how it goes.
The issue is when they make new rules, make sure that counties are compensated.
Compensated that part, plus then if we're in the right direction, but it seems like they're kind of going in the right direction though. So then of course the budget as part of that came up, and then of course transportation. But it seemed Steve Novak, our lobbyist there, that at least all sides realize, as we've heard, that transportation's a big thing, that it's do something. So I think something's going to happen. Just won't probably keep everybody happy. And then Ryan Erdman is there took John Tuma's place, so he's doing a good job. On April 9th, I had my exec meeting for Partners for Affordable Housing, and working with our new director. And then see mayor and clerks that evening. And we had, of course, Linda Kirchdorf of the Region 9 Area Board on Aging. And then April 10th, I had a solid waste meeting. Actually, we hosted that here at the Government Center for the area for, you talk about issues between solid waste and a lot of recycling. And of course, a lot of these counties have their own recycling, own their own, and they run it, whereas here we have our private haulers do a lot of it, so which is good, I think. But then we had the highway safety meeting that Kip and I were the ones there, and of course Kip had to leave a little early, and I did stay for lunch and visited with a lot of some of the shop folks, and then of course with some of the engineering folks and Al and Ryan, and so it was we just got more food since the rest of you couldn't make it. So,
Did you eat our share then too, Mark?
I think so, yeah, I tried. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Drew.
Okay, sure. Last meeting, of course, was the end of March 31st, and that evening, as Kip had mentioned, there was the transportation. I went to the Transportation Advisory Committee, which was just before they had the public open house, to look at the area transportation improvement plan. I just wanted to mention something too. I think today might be the last day for Josh Pearson with Region 9, and he's been very good for our region. I'm not kidding. That guy knows, he has a lot of knowledge about transportation. Whenever some of the organizations around here get some really good people, they usually get snapped up after a while, So MnDOT grabbed him out of St. Paul, and he'll be starting up in St. Paul, I think, pretty soon here. And most of his family lives up that way, so he wasn't leaving, because he didn't like the area or something. He just wanted to get closer to family, I think.
Is that like a state planner he becomes in?
Yeah, he's a state planner then up there in their office, and
they stole Rhonda.
sold Rhonda Allis. You're right. She was Region 9, and I'm telling you, she was extremely good.
Yep.
And of course, MnDOT saw that, and that's what happens, sometimes. But
Well, good for him.
yeah, good for Josh, and hopefully we'll get somebody, hopefully as good as Josh, and as good, because he replaced Rhonda Allis. But anyway, so that was the ATIP, they call it, and of course that's part of that open house then was them presenting all the different projects that are going on in southern Minnesota with transportation. And the last couple of years now, it's up basically, I think, unprecedented how much money is being spent on projects through MnDOT in our region. I'm going to say $20 million worth of projects each year. That's really quite a lot. So normally I think they run about $50 to $60 million or something like that they spend in a summer, well, with the two seasons we have, construction and winter, But MNRA, April 1st on Wednesday, I attended this meeting. Instead of as an alternate, I attended as a full delegate. Mayor Jim Broik had an injury and couldn't attend the meeting, so I hope he's healing up well. He's the mayor of Sleepy Eye. And with MNRA, still lots of reporting on all the different things going on for the transition for 2016. They're a 501c3, and they're eventually going to separate from the umbrella of Region 9. They've been attached directly through Region 9 for quite a while. And they've also got some efforts going forward, which are so far supported, for the employees who are para, benefit and retirements,
that possibly the legislatures will allow them to continue with their para plans, the employees that are there right now. And then something that was kind of fun and different, Dawn, my wife and I, on April 2nd, on Thursday, decided to just take off and take a road trip. It was I figured it out, from my doorstep to my daughter's was 785 miles. So
Good for you.
yeah, it was fun
It's
to see.
always a good thing.
It was. I don't get out there as often as I'd like. My 2 grandkids. It was fun, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I'm Grandpa Drew instead of Grandpa Campbell, there, because my 4-year-old grandson's name is Campbell. I don't want to give him too much confusion, so. And of course, gold in Colorado, what they're known for, don't you?
Yeah, you bring
I
some
know.
back with you? You bring some back with you then?
A little bit of Coors. I remember back in the day when that was a big deal to try to get that back to
Oh, you meant
Minnesota.
Coors.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
You guys.
So, anyway, I've tried to belabor this. It's a beautiful little town, and they've really remade themselves. It's a beautiful. They have certain building codes, so nobody can build over a certain height. They maintain all their old buildings. It's a very beautiful little valley with a nice landscape behind it, and so I really appreciate what they've done there in Golden, Colorado. And then Region 9 full commission meeting on the 8th. Something different happened this time. Before our full commission meeting, Region 9 arranged for Simply Delicious, that little soup and sandwich shop that's opened up down there in the downtown mall, which is somewhat under the heading of Charlie's. A lot of us went there and had some quick dinner before we got into the meeting, because it starts at 6, and so it's kind of like some people don't get a chance to eat. Worked out well. We had Bruce Schwartu from Extension present on the brain gain, which we talked about a little bit at Mayors and Clerks, and what's going on in rural communities today. And a lot of the professional people are moving back. They want to live in a more simple, keep it closer, rural environment. Of course, Mankato's kind of considered rural, I guess, but they like to move to towns that have services and yet are smaller than the big metro as they age. The other thing here, Mayors and Clerks, let's see, Good Thunder Renewable Energy Task Force. You probably saw it in the paper. This Deepinder Singh meeting with Al Franken, and it's called 75F. He's the CEO, and Minnesota Cup competition last year he was awarded, and also invited by Google to present. His wife is a local cardiologist here at the Mayo Clinic, and that was interesting. I didn't catch the whole meeting. I was a little bit late, but he's developed a new technology looking at conservation, and his product software independently monitors all your vents and the temperature of the rooms and the temperature, how to make adjustments, and it also monitors it so you know where things are at. You can get a readout. I mean, I don't understand the whole thing, but it's apparently something that's really needed, and it can really save organizations like local government or schools, or can save a lot of money for businesses too. So, and I'm meeting with Bob Meyer yesterday, but that's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Well, you're going to be really quick?
I am.
Okay, me too.
Sorry.
Department heads has been mentioned. On the 2nd, I had the ACHF committee meeting at TDS. We awarded, among other grants, we ordered a creative play and learning grant to the Springfield Library to update their children's area. On the 6th, Pat McDermott and I went to Crystal Seasons assisted living in Lake Crystal, and visited with the folks there, and introduced Pat and had some good discussion with them. On the 9th, I attended the SWCD meeting, had some good discussion there on drainage. Of course, Mayors and Clerks and the Benko meeting. I went to the Benko meeting as a member, and I've had a lot of contact with those folks. There's some things moving, some bills moving through the legislature that will greatly affect rural cooperative electrics like that. So through the Rural Minnesota Energy Board, I've had a lot of discussion with those folks over these bills. And we've been up to the legislature to testify on those things. Then on a personal note, last Sunday I was the facilitator for 8-hour training sessions for pyrotechnicians. So we got 10 pyrotechnicians trained to volunteer to help with the fireworks.
It's very comforting.
So, and that's my report.
Mine is very short. Of course, I attended that MnDOT transportation meeting, department head meeting. It just happened to be on April Fool's Day. I don't know if there's a connection there or not.
Perhaps.
Let's see. On we had a Highway 169 corridor coalition open house, which was on the 8th, and it worked. It was up at the Senate office, and we had, like, I believe 15 legislators came through, and it was very, very positive. On the 9th, I had a nice meeting with Mr. McDermott. We had lunch together, and also on that evening was the Minnesota State of the State address, and I was invited to come up there and sit and watch that. You've seen that once or twice, I imagine. But that was really interesting. Vice President Mondale was there. I was able to get a picture with him. Former Governor Anderson was there.
We told everybody where you were at the mayor and clerks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it was one of those things that you don't get, you never invited me.
I don't think, did I know you then?
Probably not.
Maybe if I had.
At least now you got a good reason.
But it was interesting to see that whole operation. It was, and yesterday I had an agenda review with Bob, and that was the end of mine. So let's go right on to our fiber optics communication cable ring project. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Charlie.
How are you, Charlie?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day outside.
It is a beautiful day.
So what we're bringing to you today is a joint city-county proposal to complete a ring of fiber optic cable around the city of Mankato. So just want to give you a little bit of background on that. The city and the county have been jointly building an underground network of fiber optic cable for data and voice communications since about 1998. So what does this network consist of? If you go someplace along that network, you'll find that there's anywhere from 2 to 4 buried pipes in the ground. And in one of those pipes, there's a large fiber optic cable. The other pipes are just sitting empty at this point in time. So when we first started out, this network just connected city and county buildings in the downtown area. But then in 2009, as part of the Justice Center project, we partnered with the city and also with the state of Minnesota and also with Scott County, which is a whole other story, but they were involved in this. But the intent there was to bring cable from the downtown area up to the Justice Center. And also as part of that, we brought cable up to the Hilltop area for some city traffic lights and also for a city fire station. So that particular, if you take all the stuff we did up to that point, we call that the North Fiber Route. So as a result of all those efforts, every one of the county's buildings in Mankato has a high-speed fiber optic connection to it, except for the household hazardous waste site, which we're working on a different solution for them. But all of our other buildings now have high-speed fiber optic cable connections. That's good, but the only problem is none of these buildings has a backup. If there's ever a cut to someplace along that route, they would be out of communications. So in order to remedy that, what this project does is it proposes to take and extend the existing North Fiber route by bringing fiber optic cable south from the Justice Center, then west across the MSU campus, and then back to downtown where it'll link up with the other end of the existing North Fiber route. So the advantage of that is that it gives all of our buildings a feed from 2 different directions. Because they're sitting on a ring, they can be fed from 2 different directions. And the advantage to that is that if there's a cut on the west side of the ring, we can still feed them from the east side of the ring or vice versa. So it gives us a certain amount of backup. The other advantage to this is also the fact that it gives us all kinds of future opportunities to get connectivity between government buildings in Mankato, because not only will county buildings be on this network, but city buildings, state buildings, and the route also runs very close to several District 77 buildings, so there's some future possibilities that we might be able to partner with District 77. So if you look at what we're proposing here, that's called the South Fiber Route. And like I said, it provides backup in probably about 95% of the scenarios that we can think of. There's still maybe a couple of small risk areas where, you know, there might be a cut that would isolate a building, but we think we've covered the variety of situations, the majority of them, with this particular proposal. Just wanted to also say that the state has been a very helpful partner as part of this. They offered to pay for up to 1/3 of the cost of the construction of this proposed South Fiber Route. In exchange for that, all they wanted was the ability to use a small section of the fiber optic cable that's put in the proposed South Fiber Route. The state doesn't want to own anything when they're done. They just want a long-term agreement that they can use part of the facilities they contribute to. And I think it's also worth noting that the state contributed a significant amount of engineering services to help put the original proposal together, so we thank them for that. So how did we do this? The way that this was done was the city, the county, and the state met with a fiber optic consultant from Ellerton Associates. We put together a request for proposals to complete this fiber ring. This is a little bit different than what we usually do in a bid situation, because this was done under the best value procurement alternative, which is detailed in the statutes that are referenced in the memo. So what's the difference? When you do a bid, you put together specs that a vendor has to respond to. When you do the best value alternative, typically what you do is you pose a problem and you say, vendors, how would you solve this problem? And then you also include in the RFP very definite scoring criteria, so they know how their proposals are going to be scored. So what we did was the city and the county jointly issued this RFP. We got proposals from 4 different companies, and they were Inventus, which is now Consolidated Communications, also Jaguar Communications, which is an Owatonna company, Neutral Path, which is a Mankato company, and also MP Next Level, which is located in Maple Lake up in the Twin Cities. So after this team went through and scored all these proposals, the proposal from Jaguar Communications came out as the highest scored proposal and was judged to give the best value to the city and the county. So what I need to do is step you through what Jaguar is actually proposing, because it's somewhat different from the way that we've done fiber projects in the past. So let me just kind of go through their proposal. What they're proposing to do is to build the South Fiber Route at no cost to the city and the county. Now, the engineer's estimates before we went in and sent out the proposal was that the cost of that construction would be about $450,000. So what Jaguar is going to do is build the South Route at no cost to the city and the county. Now, in exchange for that, they will be granted ownership of one of the empty pipes in the existing North Route that we've got. So they'll build the South Route. In exchange for that, they will get ownership of one of the empty pipes that we have in the North Route. In addition to that, what they're going to do is they're going to provide fiber locating services or cable locating services on both the North Route and the South Route for the next 20 years, which is the life of the contract.
Oh, wow.
So what is the fiber location services? That's when Gopher One calls and says, you got to go out and locate all your underground cable because there's going to be a construction project. They'll do it for both the North and South routes. If we were to go out on the open market and buy those services, the conservative estimate is that would be worth about $30,000 a year that we'd have to put out to get those services. So if you look at that over the life of a 20-year contract, that's about a value of about $600,000 to the city and the county that we won't have to pay out of pocket. The other thing that Jaguar is going to do is they're going to provide emergency repair services. They're also going to provide fiber relocation services if something has to be moved because of like a street project. However, that's going to be at their cost. There will be no markup, but they'll do it at their cost. So a couple things you need to know about this. Why is Jaguar going to build the South Route at no cost? While they have the ground open, while they've got a trench in the ground and they're putting in pipes for the city and the county, they will also put their own pipes in that same trench. Later on, they'll pull their own fiber cable through their private pipes. So in essence, what's happening is as they build the South Route for the city and the county, they're building a parallel south route for their own purposes. And then they'll be able to offer fiber communication services in that area of Mankato from their parallel south route. The other thing that you need to know is, why is Jaguar interested in having access or owning that unused pipe in the north route? Basically what that does is it gives them a direct route right into the heart of downtown Mankato. They will take and pull their own fiber optic cable through that, and then they'll be able to sell fiber optic services in the heart of downtown Mankato. So you probably want to know, what did the other folks propose? Well, Inventus Consolidated, they proposed almost exactly the same thing as Jaguar. It was almost exactly the same. However, they withdrew their proposal about halfway through the process. We're not sure why, but they withdrew their proposal. If you look at Neutral Path, the other Mankato company, they proposed building the south route for $325,000, and then they would have access to one of the unused pipes in the north route. And then if you look at MP Next Level, they're basically a construction company. They said they would build the south route for $485,000. They were not interested in any type of long-term partnership. They're just a construction company. They build it, they get the money, they're gone. So those are the other proposals that we received. So basically what it boils down to, after the scoring team went through, scored all the proposals based on the criteria in the RFP, as we said, Jaguar was ranked as the highest, deemed to provide the best value. And the recommendation of the scoring team is approval of the Jaguar Communications contract. And the City Council approved the exact same contract at their meeting last night. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, first, I think it's easier. I'll just propose that we approve the agreement that you just discussed, the fiber optic network construction and maintenance agreement between the City of Mankato, the County of Blue Earth, and Jaguar Communications. So,
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second.
and secondly, thank you for that presentation very quickly in a nutshell, because it answered half my questions that I might have had on it.
Well,
It was very
it's
good.
different from the way we've done things
Yeah.
in the past. So.
And that best value thing is pretty cool, because it's not just simply a bid, you know, for amount of dollars like it used to be for simple things, and so it's a good thing for us.
Yeah, and it's good for situations where there's no clear-cut solution to the problem. It's a good
Yeah.
way to stimulate innovation among the vendors.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was. I forgot about the when I was reading. I read through the whole proposal. I didn't know the value of having them locate
Yeah.
that location services, because that adds up over time.
Yeah, it
so, I mean, altogether, this could be saving the county possibly as much as $1 million. Then probably.
But you have to remember, it's both the city and the county.
I mean,
that are in
between the
this.
two of us,
But between the two of us,
possibly
around
that
$1 million.
much. So that seems like a pretty good value.
Right.
And I had a good discussion with Bob too, because I was thinking about how these private government partnerships, you know, that we look for sometimes, and I think the public wants us to look for those too, to try to see how
Right.
we can make a savings. Sometimes instead of spending money, just saving the money is the same
Right.
value, and so it's important. So that was good, very good.
Yeah, I'm looking at this as a win-win for Blue Earth County and the City of Mankato. Basically, we're saving taxpayers $1 million, and you know, so that's a win-win. We can't, and you know, Blue Earth County is going to be able to have the protection of the fiber.
That's wonderful.
It's
The other thing we
Good
like
idea.
about the connectivity to other buildings, we don't like to think about disasters, but if we ever have a situation where we have a fire or a tornado and we have to relocate staff for a while, now we've got connectivity to a number of other buildings where we could possibly find a place to relocate staff, and we've got a connection right to our network. So
See, just was last night, or night before, the City of Minneapolis had a fire, and their dispatch had to be
Right.
moved. So, yeah.
How many lines were left on the north line?
as far as like empty pipes?
Yeah, 3?
Well, because it was built as a result of several different projects over time, in some cases there are 4 pipes, some places there are only 2 pipes.
Okay.
So if you look at the spots where there are only 2, they will take up the one unused pipe. In other places where there were a total of 4, we'll be in one, they'll be in one, and they'll still leave, 2 in that place. So It varies depending on which part of the project you're looking at.
And I'm sure you looked at that in '08, you started building all that, and you still haven't used them. I mean,
Yeah, and actually what we look at is if we look at the actual fiber optic cable that's running through the north part, we're using probably 10% of the
Okay.
strands of fiber on there right now.
That's what I was.
So we've got quite a bit of room for expansion. in
okay,
the
that's
existing
kind of what my
cable.
question is. I mean, are we, by giving up that one pipe, is that going to be
It's an
problematic?
actual pipe too, it's an
Yeah.
actual pipe that they can run fiber optics through that if they ever want to.
Very good.
Sounds
Any more
good.
questions?
Sounds good to me.
I think it's, just one more little
Go
quick
ahead.
comment. I think what I'd like to thank the board for too is that since my recollection, there's been several projects we've had that staff have helped work on, that have saved dollars, saved expenses, plus then providing services to the community. And so, like I was just looking out the window here, I can see the old Nichols office building over here. It's the new, Vine Building, Community Center. And that saved us about $1 million from taking that building down. And yet now it's providing services to the community. This fiber optics is going to help provide more services and backup for our community. And believe it or not, they're a provider too. So they're a high-speed internet provider. So they'll be doing more business probably in Mankato as a result of this too. So.
Anyone else? No other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Same? Passed.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Charlie.
Charlie.
Thanks a lot, Charlie. Thanks, Brian.
All right. All right, we're gonna jump into drainage.
Well, you wouldn't want to do that. You might get kind of dirty.
Yeah.
Mr.
well,
Chair.
I've been there. I've jumped into worse things.
Morning.
Morning, Craig.
Good morning.
Okay. This morning I have has two inspection reports. First one, County Ditch 35, is just a replacement of an intake. And then on County Ditch 88 is actually replacement of actually installing a new side intake where there's been a blowout, putting a drop intake instead of a through culvert, and also replacing that's the outlet to the branch share. And that's it for inspections on today.
I'll move the repairs.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Okay.
Passed.
And the next item is just a correction. We had an incorrect amount on the previous board order here. It was just error. They had typed in 975,000 instead of 928. So this is just a correction. So needs official board action.
I'll move the correction.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed.
Was that
Thank-
figured out throughout the whole process, the 975, and then it was corrected to 928?
Actually, that was the engineer's estimate, and when we actually got the actual bids, it was bids were considerably lower. So
Nice.
what we did is they had the correct figure on the installment amount, but the total assessment didn't get corrected.
Oh, okay.
So-
So that's a good thing it's a reduction, huh?
It was a reduction.
Instead of
Saving it.
here going up the other way.
Yeah.
Nobody will mind that.
No.
Oh, no, it's always good to get a discount, so.
All right. Well, thank you, Craig.
Yep.
Thanks, Craig.
All right. Now we have our county attorney's caseload information. Patrick.
Hi, Pat.
Gentlemen, I'll get your car back up on time unless you have some specific.
We have, you've got the podium, big guy.
Just a couple of things that I wanted to point out. If you look at the pace, the actual moving pace of the numbers, I don't want anybody to get alarmed and think that crime's running amok in the county. But you need to understand that towards the end of last year, from a staffing standpoint, due to personnel issues, we were down for a period of time 20 to 33% of our staff. So what gets put by the wayside is cases that haven't been charged. We made a concerted effort in the last couple of months to get caught up on those. We are now pretty much current, so that's why there's an increase in the numbers that looks drastic, or could said to be look drastic. With that said, if you look at the 2-year average, there is an increase, but not a substantial increase as would be noted in the charts. But I would just point that out to you. That's both on the adult criminal side and then also on the juvenile delinquency side. We're still, I'm working with a couple of people and some of our IT folks on our Damien system to try to pull out some additional numbers when it comes to the TPRs and the chips and the truancies and whatnot, so I can get more information on that. Other than that, it's just it's been a very busy month and a half since I've talked with you last. There's been a couple of Drug Task Force Board meetings, for instance, that I've gone to. I've been on the Drug Task Force Board for quite a few years as the attorney legal representative for them. There's been various meetings that we've had on our paperless system with Damien. The courts plan to implement by July of 2016 an entirely paperless system. So that's going to affect not only us, but that'll affect probation in the sheriff's office and those types of issues. We've been having some of those conversations and what that's going to take and what we need to do to be prepared for that. We did have a meeting, Mr. Chair, that you and Commissioner Purvis attended relative to the child protection concerns, and granted there's only been one slight change in the law. However, there's been a change in practice, so to speak, if you will, and we'll continue to work on those and have that conversation. I have been working with probation and on our juvenile area and a diversion policy that will be in place in the very near future. Met with the sheriff's office and various people in the educational and from the county standpoint, not from the city of Mankato, any of those schools that the sheriff would have jurisdiction over, except for Mankato. We did have a meeting and talk with some issues on that. Other types of meetings, I've met with pretty much all the school superintendents in the county and have talked about some of the juvenile issues, and I think that I did send you some information on that and whatnot. So I'll just open it up to you for if you have any questions, any concerns, any comments, where you're at on things. So.
Well, of course, you've been keeping us very well informed.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that. You've had meetings with myself and other commissioners, and I know your office has always been wide open for any of us, and we really appreciate that. It keeps us well informed and really have better knowledge of how the county attorney's office is running. We appreciate that.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And then one thing, Mr. Chair, as long as I'm thinking about it, going down through my notes, one of the issues that the County Attorneys Association is tackling in the Best Practices Committee, which was recently formed, that I was asked to be a part of, is the issue with the body cameras for law enforcement. I know that we had a meeting quite some time ago, but that continues to be revisited, and I think with where the legislature's at, we'll probably see something, probably not this year, but next year. But that is getting worked on. I did spend part of a day in Rochester. Mayo has helped fund a child advocacy center. Essentially, there is that type of service in Minneapolis, in St. Paul, I believe Bemidji, and Duluth and Winona, but there is nothing in this area, if you will, and so I'm going to be hopefully working on that with Human Services and other partners to get something of that nature here in the city of Mankato, so that we can utilize those services, and that'll spill over into many different areas. But that's just one thing that's on the horizon that I'll keep you informed of.
I have a couple of comments.
Sure.
Just got to squeeze in here somehow. I appreciate that you have been making an effort to meet with a lot of folks in our community. you know. I didn't know you were meeting with the school district folks and that, and so that's wonderful. I'm glad that you're doing that. And then I know that once I spoke with you about that juvenile diversion program that you're working on, and I really appreciate that because that's a new thing going on now too. They're trying to get away from what's been going on in our country, charging out all these charges and making kids just kind of almost like they're criminals, and they're just made some poor choices in their life, and it could tag them for a long time.
Sure.
I know lately that's been in the news from the south quite a bit even too, where I've heard stories of schools that are charging kids for, like, they slap somebody on the face, and then instead of just dealing with it like you would normally deal with something like that, they get charged out for it, and they end up going through the system, and it just becomes a real headache, and it clogs up the system. That's not what the system was designed to do. So I really appreciate you helping to make some new directions in that area for our region, at least anyway, Pat.
Well, and Commissioner Campbell, I appreciate that because, well, essentially the way that I'm looking at this is it all gets back to being preventative on some of these issues, and the studies have shown that if we invest some of this money up front, we're going to save on the backside in the criminal area and in the criminal justice system, and also in the human services area. And so it's an area that needs to be looked at and be more proactive on, and so that's one of the areas that I've been focusing on.
Pat, on the body camera issue, do you see the legislature coming with a mandate in the next couple of years, or what?
That's typically what happens. I mean, but it's just gonna, you know, I know the Sheriff's Association, the County Attorneys Association, and the Chiefs of Police Association is actively involved in that and pursuing that. And
I assume that'll be an unfunded mandate.
I would assume so. The vast majority of them seem to be in that realm.
Yeah, I know.
Pat, on that body camera, I imagine there's two main issues there. Storage is one huge issue, and then
Correct.
Who gets access to the data. I think those are the two huge issues. Is there more that you can see of?
Those are the main areas of issues, and what in some respects, you know, you can't come up with a policy for a one-size-fits-all, because now you can't require an undercover drug task force agent to wear a body camera. You know, I mean, it's just not feasible. So it's those types of issues that need to be thought through and gone through and developed. And I know that we're getting various partners from across the state involved in the issue and whatnot. So it'll be something that'll be well thought out, I would assume.
Thank you for being involved with that.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have anything? Questions, concerns, comments? Otherwise, I'll probably try to, again, make it a point to meet with each of you individually before I come up here a month from now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
I think we'll take a short break.
Okay.
Late.
All right. Well, we will get back into session here. 10 o'clock, it looks like. Al, you're up for Public Works.
I'd like to bring my right-hand man with me if I could.
Welcome, Chad.
Hey, Chad.
Al.
Morning, Chad.
Hi, Chad.
Morning.
Before we get started, I'd like you folks to know I got a very attractive job offer from the Minnesota Twins. Twins looking to sign free agent Al Forsberg to join Torrey Hunter at Target Field. Dateline Minneapolis St. Paul. The Minnesota Twins announced that they have offered Al Forsberg an opportunity to join outfielder Torrey Hunter at Target Field in 2015.
Good job.
Way to go.
Who is this Al Forsberg?
Are you going to help?
I'm Torrey's quote here. I'm looking forward to playing alongside Forsberg, St. Hunter. It's teammates like this that make Target Field the best place to be all summer long. So, just so you can see it's legitimate. I have no idea why I got that.
But it seems,
It may indicate the dire straits of the Twins.
Well, I want to know, were you private season
Yeah.
ticket holder or else bought tickets
Yesterday wasn't the
yourself?
greatest
No, not
game,
really.
I don't think either, was it? They
Gone to a few games buying tickets off
Tronstad.
scalpers, actually.
Yeah, that was not good.
Don't tell us that.
all right.
Maybe they heard about all the home runs on the road projects or something.
There you go.
Maybe that's it. Well, back to legitimate business. Final approval and payment of $6,450.70 to Mathewitz Construction for County 26, from County 86 to County 27. That's the project on the north side of Eagle Lake.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's passed.
Very difficult and challenging project, and I appreciate your patience as we work through all of our regulatory hurdles and construction challenges out there.
Went through a few years, didn't it?
Yeah.
You started that in about, what, 04?
I know, before I was
In
here.
1904?
Yeah.
That wasn't long after I got on the board that we started the
That's what I thought. When did you come on the board, Kip?
2003.
Okay, so it was probably 04.
04, 05.
Moving on to our next item. We opened bids for the first stage of the County 1 project from Trunk Highway 30 to Good Thunder, 8-mile distance. This contract would widen shoulders, replace pipes, put on safe shoulder slopes on it, replace some small bridges actually. Then in 2016, we would cold in place recyclable pavement and add a new layer of pavement. The bottom 6,000 feet is moved over slightly to avoid impacts on the small community there and to move away from Maple River, which is eroding. That section would remain gravel over the winter. We received bids from RMG Construction, Mathewitz Construction, Bornicke Construction. The low bid was $3,520,525.88, 13.6% underneath our estimate. So I would recommend award to RMG Construction.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
Where again are they out of? I know, are they west of here or something, aren't they, somewhere?
Yes.
Like Worthington maybe?
Marshall, I believe.
Marshall? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's passed.
Okay, there's abstracts for a whole series of maintenance items. I think you all know Chad Wilde here, our maintenance superintendent.
Yes.
And, you know, really, he is, when I said right-hand person here, he is in charge of our entire operation and maintenance organization for highways and parks. So he's supervising about 38 full-time people. In the summertime, we come up 10, 15 people with part-time folks. Has 3 supervisors, 3 mechanics. Chad drives 16 tandem trucks and 10 motor graders, not by himself, of course. About $6 million in equipment and about $700,000 in inventory. Responsible for the Mankato shop, of course, and office, but also 5 out-county shops. Budget of about $6.8 million per year. And really, I've worked with maintenance superintendents for many years here, and there is a great deal of discretion and responsibility, knowledge and skill needed for a position of that sort. For this kind of work, I always think back to when Mr. Chesley retired from the truck dealership. He said it's one thing to hire someone with an education, one thing to hire somebody who can work with their hands. Hire somebody who can work with their education and with their hands, that's special. And that's Chad. He's doing a great job for us. So, and as you all know, he is working exceptionally long hours with a great deal of uncertainty in the wintertime and when emergencies develop. So with that as an introduction, I wonder if you could run through our bids here, Chad?
And thank you for that introduction. I think everybody's going to see that.
Daniel, you're
That
gonna
is
get
recorded, Chad, so you may want to get a copy of that.
Get that big pat in the back this morning before all this going on.
Well, as you know, I don't say things unless I mean it.
On the first tabulation sheet, we have the bid for the tandem axle truck with dump body and sand equipment. When the bids came in, Nuss truck equipment with a Mack truck came in at $126,583. With this, we are trading in a 2002 Sterling tandem with just over 201,000 miles. The new truck will again have the rear mount wing, and that will be located in the Mankato shop. So we would recommend going with the low bid on the tandem truck.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
So have you had these kind of trucks before, the one you
Mack trucks. Yes.
They seem to perform well.
Yes.
Okay, because they're all a little different, so I didn't know.
Yep.
Sometimes one over the other, sometimes they'll outperform another one.
We've had good success with the Mack trucks. There's not been one, I mean, they all have wear and tear, they all have maintenance needs, but there hasn't been any outstanding issues that would be a concern, I guess.
Okay.
You say it's the heavier machine, heavier truck, so what the Asker's means too?
The
That's on a grader. That's just
Yeah.
it's got it, okay.
We're in page 1.
Yeah, I know that, all right, see the I got it, okay.
These are action items for each individual as we go through too. I understand.
What's the wishes of the board?
I'll make motion for the Mack truck purchase.
Nuss truck? Yeah.
Yep.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more questions, concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? We have a new Mack truck.
We'll move on to the tabulation sheet for the motor grader. RDO and Ziegler both submitted bids for that. This year, both the 670 and the 770Gs came in lower than the 12M for Caterpillar. We did request a bid for a 14M from Caterpillar. They chose not to submit one. When we look at the 770, we are looking at a machine with a higher horsepower. It's a little heavier. We may reclaim some of the extra cost here when it comes time to trade it in. And I guess at this point we are trading in a 2004 Cat with a little over 7,000 hours. This machine will be located in Mapleton shop. But I would like to recommend that we would look at the 770G for awarding the bid to.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
I have one. Or it's a comment, I mean, because I know that there's two of them here. One's a little bit lower grade than the other. One has more horsepower, I would think, like you said.
The 770 has more horsepower, yes.
And I think because of all the river valleys we've got, you know, all the hills and all the nooks and crannies and all that stuff that we've got here, you have to have something that's going to outperform as much as possible. You know, for safety reasons even.
Yep.
So.
And during the winter months when we're plowing snow, that extra horsepower will help us travel the roads a little quicker, clear them a little bit faster.
What is the horsepower difference between the 670 and the 770?
Through the 8 gears it varies. It starts out at gear 1, 162 horsepower compared to the 770 at 170 horsepower. At the top gear, gear 8, the 670 has a 220 horsepower and the 770 has a 245, so about 25 more horsepower on the top end.
That would make a big difference on a Cat.
You know, having operated motor graders, get caught between gears when you're plowing snow. You might have enough power for one gear and you could just about make another gear, but you don't have that extra power, so then you end up plowing all day in a lower gear. So it does make a difference. You know, 25 horsepower may not seem a lot, but it does. I mean, that might be all it takes just to get that extra.
And what's the horsepower for a 12M compared to the 770?
It's more comparable with the 670. They're 14M. I don't have the exact horsepowers for those engines, but 670, I think over the years, we've looked at that 670 because 12M that the Ziegler offers was comparable to it. The 770 was a little bit out of that price range. This year, for whatever reason, both 670 and 770 came lower than the Ziegler's 12M. So it's a great opportunity to look at going with that 770.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I think extra horsepower will just enhance what the guys can do out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? We have a 770G John Deere. All right.
Now we'll look at the tabulation sheet for gravel crushing for our maintenance for our summer projects. We both had a bid from SMC and Holtmeyer, and Holtmeyer submitted the lower quote or the lower bid for that. So I guess I would recommend that we would go with Holtmeyer for our maintenance gravel crushing for 2015.
Also move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed.
We received bids for motor grader rental for the 2015-2016 season. Peterson and Wirtz, and I'd like to make a note that Wirtz now has changed their name to Erosion Control Plus. Erosion Control Plus did submit the lower quote, or lower bid, so I would recommend we go with Wirtz. They've done a fine job this past year that we've had them. Very happy with their
Pretty close
performance.
bid, isn't it, there?
Yeah.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? Yeah, I did notice that too, Drew. I mean, you're within
Really close.
less than $3,000 difference.
Yeah.
But that means that it's a competitive
Yeah.
job, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? All right. Erosion Control Plus. You see that.
We had a bid letting for traffic painting. AAA Striping and Traffic Marketing submitted bids for this. AAA Striping was low bid. They did our striping last year, and I would recommend we go with AAA Striping. Yes?
Can I ask you a question about that? And on this one, I'm just curious, I know I'm just kind of looking for some background on it if possible. Sometimes some of these organizations are extremely busy and can't get over here to do striping for us, and you wait for months for them to come and do the striping. Does that happen with AAA Striping?
Usually we
just
set it up
curious.
enough in advance that we can get them lined up when we're ready to do it. There may be some delays, unforeseen delays that have come
Yeah.
up. I don't, with my experience in the last couple of years, I haven't found had an issue with AAA as far as, or traffic marketing, as far as them not being available when we need them.
Yeah.
If there's a project that we want to get covered before they're in the area, we try and work with them that, you know, if we can work together when you're in the area, can you pick up maybe a couple pieces before we do our
Yeah.
major striping?
Because that concerns me. Sometimes when we go for, let's say, half the year and there's no stripes in some of the roads just because they've got other counties they're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because maybe they always bid a little bit lower, so they underbid some of the people, but these people might have more time to come out and do your striping. And so I don't know, if it's not apples to apples when you think about it, because you spend, what, $5,000 more, and then maybe they can get there up 2 months in advance and make it a little safer for people to drive on the roads. Just something goes through my head, I just want to throw it out there.
And that's something we could inquire on next year, or, you know, what's your schedule look like for this year?
Yeah.
And get some information on that. I know both of them have done striping for us in the past, and I've not heard any concerns with
Really?
that, but
The only concern I've heard is that sometimes they can't get out here when they would like to or whatever, because there's so many people stacked up in front of us.
You know, there are seasons for it too. When spring comes and the roads clean off, and it's warm enough to stripe, then everybody wants it,
Yeah.
including ourselves for the weaker roads. And then when our overlay projects are done, they need to be striped.
Right.
Seal coating, when those projects are done, they need to be striped. And then before the winter sets in, we want to try to get striping.
Yeah.
Now, one thought as we were just talking though is we could consider a requirement in the spec that they show up at certain dates or within a certain number
That's what I was
of
thinking.
days
Yeah.
after requested. You wonder what the cost penalty would be for that. The machines themselves, these trucks are huge and very expensive, very fast rigs. Really wouldn't be feasible for us to get our own striper at this point.
I know you've said that before.
Yeah, I bet one of those trucks costs close to $1 million, a lot of stuff on it, and their support equipment. And then they just drive down the road like a split. It's pretty amazing. We also work with
Then you got the
MnDOT.
training for the employees, and you got a lot of other things, cost factor besides the cost of the truck itself.
Just would not pay it for us to be in the business. We do work with MnDOT at times, and
See if they can do it or something.
yeah.
Okay.
What's the wish of the board? Don't think we have a
first
motion
bid.
yet.
Motion on the AAA?
A motion?
You're moving that, Drew?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Any more questions? This should really be called the Drew Campbell bid, shouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's
Right
just
there.
something you don't think about. You don't think about, because now we're saving $5,000.
Very
But what if they
huge
can't get out
safety
there
measure,
until
so
July
thank
or
you.
something, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't
You're
know.
right. One of the most important things we do as far as safety and public
I
acceptance.
believe it. I really believe it.
Yep.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? AAA bid striping, got it. All right.
And the final abstract would be for calcium chloride. Tri-City Paving and Envirotech both submitted bids. The Envirotech came with a low bid, and I would recommend going with Envirotech.
Did we skip one?
You skipped one. You skipped one, but we can go there. We can-
Oh, I did. I'm sorry.
That's right.
We can go there.
Okay.
We'll do this one, then we'll go back.
I'll move the Envirotech for $64,330.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
I'm
All in favor,
I'm
say-
lost.
On
We're on
the
that last
page.
The chloride.
Envirotech.
Okay, you got right here, does that include
No,
this bid down
no.
here too, or not?
We're not going there.
That's last year's bid.
Oh, okay.
Previous.
Yeah.
Just to give us a comparison, which I would
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to.
So where are we at?
We're right here. 64,330.
Okay, yeah.
Any questions, Drew?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed. Let's go back to,
CRS, 2 minutes.
yeah.
We received bids from Flint Hills, Jebro, HG Miggs. HG Miggs submitted the low quote, $341,256. So we would recommend going with HG Miggs for our CRS2 bituminous needs this year.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
That's quite
It's really come down.
Yes, yeah, they come down.
Yes.
They came down, looks like they came down to try to beat Flint Hills this year. Last year we must have had Flint Hills.
Yes.
So it's interesting to see how one place does it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's passed.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chad, yeah.
We have Jake with us this morning. How do you pronounce your last name, Jake? Hipsch. Are you related to the Hips out on County 1?
Do you like them?
Yes.
Good answer.
They're actually from Rapidan, the own land on County Road 1.
Oh, okay. He was he did well for himself in our extended negotiations to buy some right away from him.
It's all in the family, he says.
Yeah. Well, as you know, we're, in fact, the chairman of the Maple Board is here with us today, Commissioner People. And a major effort of Maple this year is to develop our long-range transportation plan. And a big part of that is identifying projects and then revenue that's expected in future years, and then which projects can we afford to build in the coming years, should we be planning for. So they've looked at, and SRF is assisting with developing this long-range transportation plan. They've looked at each of the agencies within Maple, how much revenue would each of those agencies have to invest in roads within the Maple area. So the question arises, for planning purposes, this isn't a legal commitment, doesn't award projects, but for planning purposes, over the next 5 years, how much of our road and bridge and our county state aid highway money, percentage-wise, would go into the Maple area? Big question. And you can look at it different ways. This sheet here, I think, is in your magic little box there someplace. If you look at table 1 for Blue Earth County, County Road costs us central line miles. About 11% of our mileage is within the Maple boundary. If you look at the lane miles, some of our roads have multiple lanes within that boundary, about 14% is. If you looked at population, much larger percentages there. If you looked at traffic flow, a much larger percentages in that area. So as a first reaction to it, I say, well, what about 20%? That's adjusting those lane miles up significantly, but that's where the traffic and the population is. So, and it's a planning number. It isn't, as I say, a firm legal commitment forever. This is a plan also that will be redone every 5 years, so we'll be able to look at it and make adjustments. This will be going to an open house on May 14th, and I wanted to introduce this to you in advance and see how you felt about it.
So what you're saying is that that percentage of our lane miles are inside of the Mankato Area Planning Organization's boundaries. And so if we apply for funds for doing work in those areas, that could actually be revenue to the county, the project itself. Or does the county have to give the money to the project?
It's more like, this is the county's road and bridge total highway investment funds over the next 5 years.
Yes.
What percentage of that can we say Maple would have available to invest within the Maple boundaries?
Oh, I see. It might be too simplistic in some ways, I think, but, because you don't know how many bridges there are. Bridges are the most expensive, aren't they?
That's right.
So I don't know, I'm just wondering about the bridges. I mean, I don't know.
Doesn't consider bridges really.
It doesn't?
Most of our bridges are in the greater, well, it does consider bridges, but in reality, most of our bridges are in the out-county area. Doesn't consider the county road system either. It's just the collectors and above.
Oh, okay.
Collectors and arterials.
But it could include 1 or 2 bridges. And that could bump that up to that 20% pretty quick, couldn't it?
Yeah, if we had,
We don't have any, do we have some in the
Well, 90.
actual?
yeah,
Is 90 in
90's on the edge of the Maple boundary. County 41 has a bridge
Yeah,
Yeah, it might be.
that's gonna need work. Yeah.
so that could be in there. I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box. I understand that. Yeah.
The other way to look at it is, in the past, how much have we spent within the Maple boundary? And that would be a considerably higher percentage.
Yeah.
But in reality, Victory is new, 12 is new, 90 is relatively new. You know, we've made major investments in the past.
Yeah.
When we get 12 done, that's perhaps the last major expansion project that we see in front of us. So it's a very subjective thing, and it's a planning thing. It isn't a permanent commitment, but they need to have some number to include in their plan.
Right. Does that include the stuff you were just talking with me about this morning, the fiber that goes to the stoplights on Victory Drive and all that kind of stuff, or would that include that too, or that number?
No.
It doesn't?
No.
That's a different form of transportation.
Well, I mean, it's for transportation.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and there's preservation and maintenance, and we're not programming towards that. This is for
Road.
You had a whole series of projects on these sheets.
Right.
It's money that would be applied to corridor expansion projects. For us, an example would be Stolzman Road 16 from Stadium Road to Pleasant, going that way. And there's a map showing those. There are intersection improvement projects, and one of those, for instance, might be County 90 and Highway 22 and a future roundabout there. There are bicycle pedestrian projects. They tend to be relatively inexpensive, striping for on-street routes and a trail piece here and there. There are safety projects, and they tend to be pretty inexpensive too, largely striping and some medians and things of that sort coming from our county safety plan. Yeah, so we're, for planning purposes, saying what percentage of our future revenue should go into those kinds of projects in the Maple area as a proportion to the entire county. The first suggestion was 100%. I objected to that. You may recall that.
Thank you.
I strongly objected to that, and then we started talking about these other measures, what would make sense.
Yeah, it sounds like a good place to start. I mean,
Yep.
like you said, it's just it's a number we're throwing out there and get things rolling and get some projects moving.
Good idea.
Yep, and I would just maybe echo that too. It's again, it's not committing you to that. It's for the financial piece in the plan, and we can adjust that as needed. But the plan has to be fiscally constrained, so we really need to have a number. And Al wanted to bring it before the board and have that discussion. You know, I guess maybe while I'm speaking here, just a couple notes. Really quick on the Twins. I was at the game yesterday. And they probably could have used you. But you know, I do want to point out we've done a lot of work. The MPO is relatively new, a couple years in, and at some point here later this summer I'd like to do a formal presentation, kind of bring up to speed. But also Al has done a lot of work with data and being involved with the technical advisory committee and attending policy board meetings. So I just want to give some credit to Al. He spent a lot of time on, I'm sure, his full agenda already, really helping with this, nurturing the MPO into kind of, now we're got our feet under ourselves. So just kudos to Al for a lot of his work on this too. So I just wanted to put that little pitch in there.
Well, thank you. The big thing was he complimented you on, you could have been at the Twins game.
That was a good game yesterday, wasn't it, huh?
Yeah, 12-3, was it?
Not.
Maybe if I can just have another moment here, but again, just the timeline for this plan is we're going to have a public open house, as Al mentioned, on the 14th of May. We're going to present where we are, some of the financial forecasts, the list of projects in the MPO area. Where that's significant is to be eligible for federal funds, they have to be identified in a plan. So we've gone through a lot of planning work to make sure these projects are in there, with the caveat of you can't just throw everything in the kitchen sink into the plan. It has to be physically constrained. However, what you can do is, if you have some projects that are out there, you can include them as illustrative. So you'll probably maybe see some of them that don't have dollar amounts. They're illustrated as illustrative projects, so they're at least identified in the plan. So if that opportunity were to come forward to seek funding, they're at least identified in there. And again, we're going to be revisiting this plan in 5 years. It won't be probably as in depth because we're really starting from scratch. It'll be more of an update, financial forecast projects and stuff like that. So we'll be able to adjust that. So if you see a project that's in short, mid, long term, we have the opportunity to adjust that again when 5 years comes around and we have a better idea of many different situations, traffic, economic. So I just wanted to keep that in mind. Once the plan is adopted, which will be October of this year, I'd like to come out to the policy or the board here and kind of present the plan, so you guys kind of have a little bit more in-depth understanding of it and what's included in there. The last piece that I do kind of want to mention is, sitting on your end here, well, what do we get out of this, right? What's in it for Blue Earth County? The long-range transportation plan is kind of like our base or our platform. We get federal and state funds for planning purposes, and actually, Al, if you could hand this out for me. So going forward I want to, if there's corridor studies, if there's intersection studies, if there's some type of study that the county sees fit in the MPO planning area, that's an opportunity to basically use our federal and state planning funds. That's less cost for the county. So if there's an intersection that is important and Al wants to do an ICE study on that, that's funds that we can use. One common thing that's come out from a lot of the area partners is the pavement quality or the pavement rating. Each jurisdiction kind of has their own different rating systems, and the counties and the cities have their own. One idea was to have that uniformity, identifying a pavement management plan that identifies sort of comparing apples to apples. So I just want you to think of, if there's certain, and Al might have some more insight on, if there's a corridor study, if there's an intersection, if there's aerial GIS information, some type of planning related activity, those are all eligible opportunities where we can utilize federal and state funds for planning on that.
All right. One in mind.
So yeah, and there's in that little packet that you have on the last page, there's maybe a little questionnaire that I'm going to be presenting that to our TAC and our policy board and send that out to the jurisdiction to kind of gather feedback. From then that'll be brought to the policy board, and we'll include that in our budget for the next couple of years. and it can be more than one thing too. We'll have a list of things. So, in addition, there is just a little quick bullet point overview of the MPO. Some of you are familiar with it. Some of you are kind of wondering what it is or what it's all about. Kind of high level, and then just the map in there shows the planning area, and then the adjusted urbanized area. And what that means is area that potentially looks like it could be urban within the 20 years, and that's the green.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jake.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you for the report. I was hoping that we could do this in a workshop setting, but they've stuck to their schedule of completing this long-range transportation plan, and there wasn't time between the next workshop and the open house, and I wanted you to be introduced to the items before the open house.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Before it was published. This list of projects is really quite comprehensive, and if you go through it, the ones that are highlighted in color is that beige, yellowish beige, those are where county would have a role. And then when you look over in the far right column, there's an indication of priority. Should it be a short-term project, middle term 1, middle term 2, long-term project? And then finally, Jake indicated that this has to be physically constrained. At the bottom of the list, it says illustrative. And those are things that we've identified that need to be done, but couldn't be funded within the amount of money that's available. Just on a very preliminary basis, the consultant was telling me that for county projects over this planned period, we're about $62 million short. Which is not surprising, really. We know there's a deficit in long-term funding.
That Stolzman project there, hopefully they'll include the pedestrian issues that go on there. That's a big issue.
Yeah. We have several pedestrian issues around the Maple area, Stolzman and Victory.
And lighting.
The lighting. County 33. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Jake. See you Thursday.
Yes.
What next do you got for us here, Al?
Well, a couple of notes here. Railroad crossings have been a priority for our county for several years now, and we've received note that we'll get replacement of signals with modern signals and gates in 2017, 100% federally funded at County 5 near the North County border up by Vedder's Quarry. And then County 26 near County 12, just south of the Mankato Airport there, where the road crosses the Canadian Pacific line.
Does that mean we could do them right away and we get paid back in 17, or do we have to wait till 17 to do it?
Well, we would have to wait till 17 unless we propose something of that sort to see if the railroad office was open to it.
I mean, we all know the safety needs, for railroad crossings, and I guess, we've all seen the horror and terror that can happen with railroad crossings, and I guess I would, like to bring something forward that we do it as soon as possible, knowing we're going to be getting paid for it in 17.
We might be able to advance to 16, the time in getting plans and agreements and all that stuff in place. I could inquire and see if that's feasible.
All you can do is ask. If we can, that'd be great.
And we just did that with one, actually, so.
Isn't that what we did with 12? We did the work and got paid for it later?
No, it was...
I thought that was...
the one where our county road went to 17.
So, yeah.
We have new ones out at Lion Valley Road. It used to be 12, now it's 26. New signals and gates there were done last summer.
These are the ones out by the ethanol plant.
Yeah.
By the Crystal.
We've done very well with the program.
Yeah.
The state has recognized that we've been working to get additional funding for it, and they've seen our need, and so we've moved through that regular process quite well, actually. And now the state is picking up more priority for railroad signals and gates because of the oil trade volatility issue. Doesn't affect us, but it certainly helps throughout the state.
Okay.
I agree with Vance. If there's something we can do to speed that up a little bit, I'd certainly be in favor of that.
I will check. I know just the guy to talk to. Okay. There was a news item that Tony Cornish, Representative Cornish, put out not too long ago about the cost of MPCA permitting system, and that kind of piqued my interest, curiosity. Last year we paid the MPCA $3,600 in permit fees. Just for your information.
Okay.
How much was that amount? I'm sorry.
$3,600. Grant status, we had applied for a long-range local road improvement program grant for County 12 last segment. We were not successful in that. As you know, we got an HSIP grant that we're building this summer, Highway Safety Improvement Projects. We just applied for another one for next year, and we're preparing a Tiger grant. Okay, what does that stand for?
Tiger?
Tiger?
Yeah. Transportation Improvement Generating Economic Recovery. That's it.
Took someone a long time to come up with that.
Yeah, we're just preparing that grant now.
Nice.
These grant applications are quite time consuming and they cost us money to prepare, but that's the way it's being done now, so we're doing it.
All right.
Status of our construction projects, we just awarded County 1, Highway 30 to Good Thunder. County 1, Old Trunk Highway 66, we're working on the design, a right-of-way plat. We flew it this spring for aerial photography for the mapping. 12 number 5, 17 to 83, we're working on right-of-way acquisition. We've completed the topographic surveys with our crew. Borings are done, preparing a grant application. We'll be starting design work soon. In fact, we're having a meeting on Friday. County 72, Kendall Street, that will be contracted for by Vernon Center City with the assistance of SEH Consultants. We'll be opening bids for our HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program contract on May 8th. Bituminous maintenance overlays will be opening on May 8th, and there's been some restructuring of those overlays. We were going to do County 60 Stadium Road from Stolzman to the Victory Roundabout this year. The city requested we consider additional lighting along the road, and they assessed for bituminous maintenance projects. So we've set that back till 2016, so it could include lighting and could be go under the city's assessment policy. We will include with 60 next year County 8 from Stadium Road south to where the curb and gutter ends, and do both projects.
Okay.
County 90 from Highway 60 to Highway 22, an expensive project, but needed. County 32 from Highway 60 down to Trunk Highway 30 this year, and then the Bray Park roads and camping area.
On that County 90 from 60 to 22, are we considering a intersection at 22 and 90 change there? I know I talked to folks from MnDOT and stuff, you know, if any intersection would be perfect for a roundabout, that one would. It's such a, it's got to be one of the most dangerous intersections in Blue Earth County. And is that being considered there or not?
At this time, I'm sorry to say it isn't. You know, the board passed a resolution requesting the state prioritize that intersection. We've programmed it in our 5-year plan repeatedly. I just got an email from the state the other day. They don't feel it is a high priority because of there hasn't been a recent fatal accident there.
It's terrible when somebody has to die to get something through.
I know, that's sad.
What do they consider recent? Because that motorcycle accident wasn't all that long ago.
And it wasn't long ago at all.
Does Maple go out to that far? Does it go right to that line there?
No.
So I mean, maybe it should be brought up again through the Mankato Area Planning Organization.
I will bring it up on Thursday at a TAC meeting.
Okay, that'd be wonderful, because that's probably the only way you're gonna get something through is if they recommend maybe to the state.
In fact, if you look at this, I put it down as a short-term need.
Right.
MnDOT put it on as a long-term illustrative need. So we had this discussion.
Yeah.
And as long as they were the lead with that project, then it would be long-term illustrative. The determination was if the county accepted the lead for the project, it could be moved up to a short-term need.
Oh, okay.
But we need their money. We have 2 legs, they have 2 legs. They need the program funds for it.
Yeah, I mean, they'd only have to pay for about half the project because we have 2 legs on there, so.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, the big thing's gonna happen is this year, if the state of Minnesota decides to get a transportation funding bill, you know, because one way or the other, a lot of these projects through, aren't gonna be funded if we don't have money for them.
That's great. Definitely. Which brings us to our bridges.
Yeah, that too.
County Road 147 bridge, the contractor will be starting this fall and finishing it next spring. Will be open next summer.
Wow.
I'm working with the Dodd Ford Bridge Preservation Society in developing a plan where you'd have an observation deck, and they will use the wood salvage off the deck to make a walkway down to it. We need to get that approved by the Corps and the SHPO. But it's been a pleasure working with the group, and Art Seidner especially.
What will the deck be then, Al, when you drive over?
The new bridge will be concrete.
It will. It won't have wood over it or anything.
No, it just was not practical to do that.
Yeah.
But we've got several bridges ready to go, badly needed bridges. County 5 up by the North County line, where we want to take off the old decks and put on new decks. County 52, another bridge with new concrete beams, and then 3 small old bridges that would be replaced by big box culverts. 1 on County Road 111 and 2 on County Road 144. So there's 7 structures that we could do this summer if the state legislature authorizes additional bridge bonding funds. I think you've probably seen the letter I sent to our legislators.
Yep.
I've had contact
Good
with
job.
a couple of them. All right. And last information item here, regional park designation for Greater Minnesota. You know, regional parks money, legacy money, used to be distributed through the DNR and their process. Now it's being done through the regional park system. Commissioner Campbell is on the board for our region. They're soliciting which parks do we believe have regional significance, which I think in the end will make them eligible for legacy funds and regional park funds. And just based on discussions with our park board and with you folks and our own familiarity, Dean, Bray Park, Bailey Park, Rapidan Park, Red Jacket Trail, and the park at the Le Sueur River certainly all draw people from a wide area. Our figures show that. Our park figures show campers coming in from multi-county area, other states and sometimes. So they would seem to be possibilities, and then if the guaranteed sand and gravel area is eventually acquired, that could be incorporated into the Red Jacket Trail Park at Le Sueur River.
Okay.
So if that sounds reasonable, we could submit those as candidates.
I think that'd be wonderful. The only other one that ever sticks out in my mind just a little bit, which is unusual compared to some parks, is the Williams Nature Center. I know we're not doing much out there, but if we ever needed just even a little bit of funds, because it's a level park intended for people who are in wheelchairs and walkers and handicapped, and that would give it regional significance because there's not a lot of parks that are like that.
So tough to track the usage, so
It is.
I understand what you're saying. but
Yeah, it is.
Tough to track the usage because it's a day-use facility.
Yeah. So, well, the Rapidan Dam Park sometimes is hard to track too. We've got hundreds of people sometimes in one day that just use the landing for the canoes and the kayaks and all that stuff.
We've actually put traffic counters across the gate, which proved
For
that.
vehicles, yeah.
Proved that.
Yep.
We've got good
All right.
numbers for our camping use, but we don't have good numbers for the thousands of people that use the Red Jacket
daily
Trail
use,
and the swimming beach at Bray Park. And
Yeah. Oh, I
Very
know.
good.
Be
Well,
good.
thank you, Al.
thank you, folks. It's a beautiful spring day out there.
It is.
Enjoy one of our parks.
So we don't need a resolution, do you think, on number 6? Because it's almost like, I mean, I hate to bring it up, but
If you would like.
we could do it later though, too. The reason being is there's gonna be a workshop the middle of May on how to make sure that you get everything in your plan to help bring significance to it, to see if it can rise to that level. There'll be a workshop in Springfield, I believe, the middle of May, and then the deadline will be the end of June. So it's pretty, fairly fast. But that, we could always come forward with a resolution then if you wanted to. So,
Well, thank you very much, folks. I have to go practice up on my hitting, catching, throwing. I'm not good at anything, so this is
Help
gonna be
us
a lot of
out,
work.
will you, please?
Pardon?
Help us out, will you?
I will try.
Thanks, Al.
See you, Al. Thanks.
Let's see you, folks.
All right. We will bring this back to Administrative Services. Bob?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first item is the county board minutes for March 31st of this year.
Move the minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed. Bills?
I'll move the bills.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions, concerns?
The only one I had, I mean, I went over most of them ahead of time with Bob. There was two other ones that, just kind of a statement on them. Was curious. I know we're giving money to the forensic nursing home over at the SPRTC, and we're giving money to the MSOP program over in St. Peter. And I was just wondering those amounts. One of them, one of them's 8,000 something. One of them's 1,700 in the second week. Are those like pretty much our monthly amount costs, do you think? Probably be about $10,000, I suppose. Forensic nursing home, and then MSOP.
I would say those are a portion of the total costs. We get charged a county share of placements at the state hospital, and those county shares differ based on the type of placement. And so depending on the commitment, we get different bills from different portions of DHS.
Right.
We also have those shared staff that are deployed to the county that come through the state hospital. So without looking at each individual bill, I'm not sure which is which in terms of, is this the staffing portion?
Yes.
Is this the county share of sex offenders? Is this the county share of mental health placements? So all those come in separate charges.
Yeah, and it goes according to how many people we have over there from our county.
Right.
Right, so you could live in a small county and have 10 people over there, or live in a big county and have 2. It's just different, just all over the map as far as what the cost may be.
It all depends on the commitments that have been put in place.
Okay, I was just curious where that was at. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Bills are passed. Okay, Human Resources.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, you have a revised Human Resources agenda in front of you there. We do have one action item this morning. It's an authorization to initiate recruitment for a community corrections supervisor. Really ties in with item E under informational items, where we had a resignation of the office manager in the community corrections department. Through discussions that I've been having with the director of community corrections, we'd like to restructure that department a little bit and utilize this community corrections supervisor to replace the office manager. That gives us more flexibility in that department to oversee the probation officers. Currently, Josh, as the director, still has direct reports of the adult probation officers. This would allow us to have a supervisory position that could take the adult POs. We have a supervisor that currently oversees the juvenile POs, and so this fits with some restructuring that has been planned for a couple of years now. So we would like to use this opportunity to do that restructuring.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move it.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions, concerns?
Well, it sounds like it's a new thing, and it sounds like it's something that's been looked at by both you and Josh and whoever else is working on this.
Yeah, in terms of full disclosure, it will be a higher classified position, so over time, the overall cost increase can be as high as $20,000 a year when looking at the classification levels of the office manager versus the supervisory position, but it does allow us some more flexibility to do some larger organizational planning going forward.
And then this will be bid outside the community, I mean, just take in.
Yeah, the plan would be to
applications.
recruit both internally and externally for this
Both.
supervisory position.
All right. No more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed. Got-
Just continuing through the informational items, we continue to have a lot of activity in our human resources area. Did have a resignation of a financial assistance specialist, so we are initiating recruitment there. We also had a resignation of the accountant in the Public Works Department, so we're recruiting to refill that position. Also a resignation in our license center, and so we will begin recruiting to refill that position. And then we had a promotion in our human services area. Some of the new positions that the board authorized are creating promotional opportunities, and so we're seeing some movement within the employee ranks. So we need to refill that. And then we did hire a clerk in the Human Services Department as well as the appraiser in Taxpayer Services.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, liquor license.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, you have a memo in your packet there indicating that Minneopa Golf Club is in the process of changing ownership, and so the new owners have applied for a on-sale 3-2 liquor license, and so we'd like to recommend approval of this 3-2 liquor license as well as a consumption and display license or a setup license for OPA4 LLC, doing business as Minneopa Golf
Move for
Course.
approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the next item is reappointment of some individuals to the County Board of Appeal and Equalization. Mr. Mike Miller, Mr. Dick Norland, and Mr. Dan Winger's terms on the County Board of Appeal and Equalization are scheduled to expire. They have all indicated a willingness to continue to serve on that board, and so we're recommending a 3-year appointment for those 3 individuals expiring in 2018.
Wishes of the board?
So move.
Got a motion, second. Any comments?
It's
Questions?
More of a grammar. I don't know.
Oh.
Both should be all. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. It confused me there. No.
No questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Has passed.
It's one of the struggles of using templates is
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
we
You probably
fail
had
to catch
2
some
in that,
on, so
so
apologize
I would
for
think
that.
that would be, so, no biggie, but.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 6 in your packet then is an appointment to the Board of Adjustment. Mr. Perry Woods has resigned his position on the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment, and so we'd like to appoint Barry Jacquez to the Board of Adjustment. He's currently a Planning Commission member and I think would do a great job in filling that spot. We will also begin recruiting for that Planning Commission vacancy very soon.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions, concerns? I've known Mr. Jacquez since January of 1977, when I started on the Lake Crystal Police Department. He lived across the hall from me in an apartment in Lake Crystal. The guy's an amazing guy. He is so smart, and he's so committed to Blue Earth County.
Former county employee.
Former county employee, that's what he was when I was there. Of course, both of us were a little bit younger. And, but we're pretty privileged to be able to have him continue doing this, so. All
We
in
had a
favor?
good plan and zoning board right now.
Yep. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's passed.
Mr. Chair, item number 7 then in your packet is a memo requesting an appointment of an elected official to the Sports Facility Steering Committee. This committee will consist of members of both the public and private sectors, and they'll be looking at the consultant for a consultant or an architect to develop a facility space needs analysis. This is a request that's coming from Visit Mankato to appoint a Blue Earth County Commissioner to this steering committee. So I'm recommending that Commissioner People be appointed to that committee. I would also point out that they also have 2 other committees, a technical advisory team as well as a facilities assessment team that they're recruiting members for. I did volunteer myself for that technical advisory committee, and then the other one they're looking more for some of the sports associations to have representatives on that. So they're trying to get organized to pursue a sports complex or a different way to address the needs of sports in our community. You obviously are aware of the request in front of the legislature to expand the use of the sales tax that's collected locally to help with some of this funding. So part of the steering committee effort will be to work on trying to get support in the community for the use of those funds and passage of a referendum.
I move we appoint Commissioner People to that commission.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments?
I just want to make sure it's okay. Mark, are you agreeable to be appointed on there?
Yes, it'd be fine.
Well, Mark does a fantastic job. He certainly is knowledgeable with issues that are going on around the city of Mankato. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's passed.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 8 is a memorandum of understanding between Blue Earth County and Farm America for the management and operation of the Blue Earth County Community Farm. Farm America is basically taking over what Feeding Our Communities Partnership has previously provided to the community farm, as they will serve as the fiscal agent and be responsible for the payment of the farm manager. Blue Earth County will continue to provide support to the farm manager, as well as some publicity and other supports necessary to continue to produce the produce that ultimately is then provided to different organizations and people in our community.
Very good. Wishes of the board?
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions, concerns?
Who's actually then, is there a person in charge out of all that? Like,
I think we have a new farm manager hired.
Yeah, we have a new farm manager hired.
I just haven't heard, so.
He is the old
Operator
of the Rapidan Dam.
Oh.
Can't say his name right offhand, but I think he'll do a great job.
Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan.
Oh, okay.
Ryan Weiss.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's right.
Great guy.
Yep.
That's my neighbor.
Good. Do a good job.
So. All right. Drew, did you have something? I thought I saw your hand go.
No.
Okay.
I've been reviewing and just, I did have some questions. Oh, you did? I saw my hand move a little bit.
Yeah, I
You're
did.
pretty astute.
I am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, you may as well now, because you're for.
No, I'm glad I connected with our administrator on it, because it's a little bit confusing, but I read it through, tried to connect with Bob to see what the expectations really are going to be, and what's some of the benefits of having Farm America involved with some of it too. So, and they're a good organization that I think needs our whole community support. Southern Minnesota is pretty much AG, agricultural, and so I think Farm America, to get them involved would be really good.
Probably also important to note that Extension is involved in this project as well, and so even though they're not listed as a partner in this memorandum of understanding, they have been involved in those discussions and will be working closely with Farm America.
Okay.
All right. If there's nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's a good one, yeah. Farm America basically is just the flow through, so we have a...
Yeah.
But, okay.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 9 then is the financial status report through March 31st of this year. So we're a quarter of the way through our annual budget. You'll see that then our target is at 25%, but our total revenues are just under 11%. That's typical, again, with the way property tax revenues are received. I did look at the state and federal line for revenues a little bit because we are a little bit behind last year in terms of those grant dollars coming in. I did notice that in the Human Services Department that one of our large mental health grants had not been received by the end of March, which is a little unusual, so I assume that that will be coming in April, but I'll check on that. And then in the Public Works Department, last year we did receive some construction monies that we have not received any yet this year, so it's probably more of a timing issue there. So that makes up some of the decline in those revenues. On the expenditure side, you'll see that our total expenditures are just under 20% compared to a target of 25%. Again, with our summer construction projects just getting started, that contract and fees line will typically run a little low, and that tends to pull the overall percentage down as a result. But overall, I believe we're in pretty good shape in terms of matching up with our budget for the year. The second page then just again shows our cash and investment balances. You'll see our total available funds in our operating accounts are at just under 29 million compared to a 6-month operating needs of 42.7 million. But our total available county funds with all our dedicated accounts is sitting at 94.9 million, so down a little bit from prior years, but that's been a planned drawdown of those reserves, so nothing unusual in that regard.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Well, looks like that's about it. Is there anything else the board wishes to discuss?
Just, I had a good discussion a little bit with Bob yesterday too about the, I noticed regularly seeing this payoff lease revenue bond for $12,277,000. It just keeps floating along in there. And at some point, this board will be called to ask what we're going to be doing with that bond, you know, and it was towards the Justice Center up there before I came on, and before you came on. And so, you know, whether we're going to pay it off early or, you know, what we want to do with it.
That's scheduled for 2017. That would be the first opportunity that we would have to make that decision to pay it off early if that were the wishes of the board. Obviously, you've made a previous commitment to dedicate those funds, but that can be changed, certainly.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's anything else, I ask for a motion to recess.
I'll make motion to recess to Axel's Bonfire for luncheon meeting.
Right. I won't be able to attend with you. I have a Children's Museum board meeting, so.
Do they feed you?
No, they don't.
Oh.
Nope.
Goodness.
You're such dedication for you, Mr. Chair, such dedication.
But so be
What do
it.
you think? Are you thinking about going for lunch or you got stuff?
But they are also a great bunch of people, so.
They definitely are.
Yeah.
They match really closely with this board, so.
The bike rally with the bike helmets, which our company's involved with, will actually deliver them to the Children's Museum.
I understand that this year. What date is that?
The 7th, I think, of May.
May 7th.
Thursday, I think it's Thursday. Yeah, we deliver them on Wednesday, I think.
And tonight there's some kind of a thing at the parks, isn't there?
Mr. Chair, did you get a motion and a second?
I got a motion. Do we get a second?
You guys don't want to eat lunch?
I'll have a second.
A second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, there you go.